Welcome to a very special edition of Task Force Griffin on KGRA Radio, KGRAradio.com. We'll explain that in a moment. I'm very, very fortunate to be surrounded by the lovely and wonderful folks that live in the Pine Bush, New York area. We're here at the Cup and Saucer, a staple of Pine Bush, New York. Unfortunately, because of the weather, we were not able to take advantage and participate in the festival, which has been moved to 9 June. But we did decide to get together because of all the other things that are going on in our schedules, and I won't be able to attend the festival. We decided to get together. To my right, your left, if you're watching on the screen, is Mark D'Antonio, good friend, astronomer, and creator of Scientific Hack'em and Hokum at every opportunity.
I like that. That's pretty good. Scientific Hokum.
Hokum.
Yeah, he really meant to say Sky Tour live stream and Sky Tour radio, but that's okay.
That's right. I got the A in, so I had to drop something else to keep the equilibrium
that's
in.
Hilarious. Commander's a very good friend, and I was very fortunate to be able to do this with him. I really like the hat. He's sporting a good hat. He wears it well.
It's all to keep the identity in proper check.
Right. Now, I also have here on the other side of the table, we have Keith Ickes, who's actually...
Which is the right of your screen to my left.
That is very, very well said.
Thank you.
Unless Bill, unless our producer shows it reversed, in which case it'll be all messed up. But it's not for the moment. Keith Ickes is actually one of two wonderful guys who run P&K Space Imaging, one of the largest lunar and planetary imaging sites on YouTube. They have a channel...
Absolutely tremendous.
It is wonderful. It has lots of people watching, sometimes hundreds and hundreds watching this live stream during the evening. And sometimes I join him on the stream. Sometimes he asks me to come on. Sometimes he asks me to leave. But it's, either way, it's a lot of fun. So welcome, Keith. Welcome.
Now, thanks for having me, guys.
I'm curious, how'd you get started doing this?
Long story.
Luckily, we have a few minutes in front of us.
We have a good time limit. Basically, I started off streaming the moon myself. It was just me, what I would do is I would pre-record the moon and then go back and look at the footage and then just upload it to YouTube just as a place, because YouTube is free. It was a way to keep the video. I didn't have to pay any hosting or anything like that. Well, of course, you start searching around for people like-minded that were doing the same thing, and I came across a guy named Paul Gurnis down in Florida. And he had way better equipment than I did. Now, the problem was, because of the equipment and how he had to operate it, he wasn't able to be in the background that much, adjusting for optics and whatnot. So we got a bright idea. Well, why don't we just make it a two-man operation? I'll handle the optics, and he can do what he does with his awesome equipment. And he has an arsenal down there in Miami. I'm talking probably 8 to 10 scopes, anywhere from the 70 to 80 millimeter refractor scopes all the way up to 12-inch Meade, huge monster galaxy spotters. So we decided to do that, and once we teamed up, it kind of just took care of itself. I mean, people were just kind of amazed at what we were actually getting.
When'd you get it start? When'd you start this?
We actually been doing this together now for a little over 2 years.
Yeah, because I remember about a year ago I stumbled across it, just looking on YouTube, and I was pretty impressed. And then I've seen it step up pretty quickly.
Yeah,
in its presentation, followers. You have a large number of followers.
Yeah, well, we get a lot of UFO people come onto our stream, and we love that, because the one thing we've said from the beginning is the more eyes, the better. The more eyes we have looking at that screen, because we've had people catch stuff that thousands of people were watching on live that didn't catch it.
Right.
And they would come back and leave a message in the comments saying, this at this time. Whether it be satellites passing, whether it be space junk, whether it be meteors, we've caught all kinds of stuff, and only a few that we couldn't explain. And we do have a science-based channel. We base it on science. We're not just going to, everything's an alien UFO out there. We try our best and every opportunity to identify, which is glad I got hooked up with Mark D'Antonio over here, because he helps me a lot with that identification process.
I try.
It'd be nice to know what the magic formula to get Mark to help. So I'll talk to you later.
Cookies.
That's
all it is. Yep.
Well, yeah.
You were saying before we got into our little twist over here.
Yeah, it's a side, but we do have UFO people, and me personally, I'm not a UFO person. I'm a more science background, kind of like Mark is, but Paul was the other way. Paul was more of, he was doing it for the trying to find something that can't be explained, you trying to get that solid proof. And the more I've been around Mark and your producer Bill, and the more I've come into that realm of wanting to look, and the more that has driven me to want to find that evidence scientifically and be able to have it peer reviewed and backed up, because in my eyes that will give it the ultimate credibility if we could do that, which is why we continue to do what we do.
So what did you
do?
What were you doing that led you to this? Starting up 2 years ago, what were you doing before this, and what do you do when you're not streaming the
I have a furniture store down in Annapolis, Maryland. I mean, that's a normal day job like everybody else.
We all have our day jobs.
Yep. So yeah, this is
that's because radio doesn't quite pay all the bills.
That's exactly right.
and astronomy definitely doesn't either. But
But it could.
Yeah, it's just a normal everyday stuff. And same thing with Paul down there in Florida. Normal everyday day job. We don't really keep anything special. Like, we're not like looking at the screen 24 hours a day, trying to find stuff. But when we do, we're lucky enough to have very liberal schedules that allows us to do next day comparisons and overlaying images, trying to find like new craters and stuff.
So how did you two get connected? What was the impetus?
Actually, I don't remember how I met Keith. I think it was probably through Bill New York Skywatcher.
Yeah.
And he said, there's this bizarre channel you gotta check out. Okay.
Yep.
And it was actually Paul and Keith's channel on P&K Space Imaging. So I went there and struck up a conversation. Next thing you know, Keith says, "Hey, you want to come on and talk for a little while?" And I said, "Oh, sure, why not?" So we came on and we became friends that way. We both have like similar goals in this whole arena anyway, and it's pretty cool. And another thing is, sometimes on the moon, because they have the moon streams a lot, sometimes you see something cross the face of the moon, a little dark speck, and usually it's a satellite. And based on the speed at which it crosses and so forth, you could calculate how far up it is, what altitude and speed. So I did a few of those things for Keith, and he actually thought that was pretty cool. And so, I also did some stuff with Jupiter when they show the planets, and we talked about what's Jupiter actually made of, what's going on, and then what is ammonium hydrosulfide or whatever, it's one of the impurities in Jupiter's atmosphere. So, it goes on from there, and we just spent a lot of time.
But I should say, as Mark started doing that, it started clicking that our subscribers on YouTube wanted that information, even if it wasn't UFO based. Right. They were there to learn.
That's right.
And we found the more and more I had him on, the more and more questions we would get, the more and more people that would come in, and they would be asking questions like, and we've been on 5-6 hour streams at a time, answering people's questions. It turned into more like hunting UFOs to being more of a science education and hunting UFOs.
Yeah, exactly.
And teaching them how the science works of the telescopes.
Well,
and
that definitely reflects the kind of inquisitive and inquiry that you would want, and that's what science is supposed to do.
That's right. Yep. That's right. And then, when I started doing Sky Tour Radio on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, right? I follow the amazing Commander Cobra.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about the amazing part, but he does follow me, and I like the fact that often we will overlap. We'll take a half hour and
I'll join you for the last half hour.
And we'll do the crossover. And I've been a guest on Mark's show.
Yeah. And actually, he actually was in. We have the Sky Tour live stream also from our observatory, and that's an established live stream where we actually take people on a journey of the night sky, and that we show deep sky objects, that are very faint. But we see them in seconds, not minutes, because we have special cameras for that. And I remember that Commander Cobra actually came on one of our Sky Tour live streams. I was so honored. I was like tongue-tied most of the time, because the man is really great. He has a lot of things in his background that are admirable, including this amazing show on KGRA. And he goes from 7 to 9 p.m. on Sundays.
And then you follow 9 to 10.
I do indeed. And I think it's just a really good show. It's a really good Sunday night for people on KGRA.
It is. We've been very fortunate. In the best part that I've had doing the show, aside from all the great people that I listen to, I always refer to the folks as the greatest audience on the planet.
That's
and they
right.
are the folks to keep it going. Yep. And Bill has been, Skywatcher has been a really important part of keeping it together. He's the conduit that got everybody together on this. He's a pretty humble guy when it comes to that. He gets a little bit embarrassed, so we'll get some dirty looks that you can't see, but if you look close enough on my lenses, you might see that.
Yeah, you can see the reflection in Commander Cobra's lenses of a really, really angry guy over by
just
the,
embarrassed,
yeah,
and then there's some
embarrassing.
some nonverbal communication that's
Nonverbal
coming our
communication
direction.
coming at us, exactly.
Luckily, we're trained experts in this,
can
and we know how to
handle
deal
this.
with it. We know how to handle it.
We know how to handle hecklers.
But my point that I bring up is that that Sunday night, folks that have been tuning in and going, it gets stuff like P&K out there.
Yep.
And we've met some really tremendous folks that have that. I've been blessed with a number of really wonderful veterans that have come on, folks that have, like myself, that have been pilots and have had some very interesting experiences. We've even spurred a couple shows because of Skywatcher's hard work. Some of the folks that have been guests have come on and joined KGRA, and we've been very fortunate in that portion of it. And we even did some simul broadcasting stuff lately, which has been a lot of fun.
Very interesting.
Which has been kind of funny because everyone loves to see me wearing my helmet for the 2 hours and talking like some kind of little cartoon in there. Luckily, my studio, Bill helps me set it up. We get the camera angles just right when we do that, just like we are here today at the Cup and Saucer in Pine Bush, New York.
That's right.
What a neat place, too.
It is. Your first time up this way?
No, I was here last year, and first time actually at the Cup and Saucer, though. It's really nice diner.
And they've been wonderful to us.
I want to thank Dino, the owner.
Dino has been wonderful, and we have set ourselves up all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for better people.
All right, let me run down my standard kind of repertoire of questions. The most interesting thing that you have seen while you've been doing the stream?
There's a couple things. We just caught something a couple months ago that we can't for sure say what it is. We're leaning towards weather balloon, I believe, but we can't confirm it.
Yeah, the thing was, it was a really interesting object that crossed the moon. But see, when you look at satellites, the image itself, when you see the image, the dark spot that is the image, it may not be the exact size of a satellite.
Because you have the light wrapping around it.
You've got all kinds of other effects, and it's a telephoto view, so it inordinately makes things look a little bit larger when they shouldn't be, kind of a thing. It gives you the wrong perspective, right? Well, anyway, one of the objects actually had a definitive shape that kind of looked like a teardrop shape, but from below. And it kind of looked to me like that as it crossed the field, and it looked like we were looking up at a balloon going overhead, which just happened to cross the moon. Now, it could have been a high-altitude weather balloon, and I'm not sure if it was, but based on the calculation for how high it would have been if it was a satellite, I believe that the object was way too large to be an actual satellite. It would be something not missed by anybody else.
And it's something we'd never had happen on the stream, for something to be that actual close, and the speed it was going was way too slow for it to be in any kind of orbit or anything.
Yeah, and too far out. It would have to be too big and too far out. Because it was only going very slowly across the moon. And objects that are orbiting the planet Earth, the farther out they are from the Earth in their orbit, the slower they move, because they don't have to go that fast to attain that circular orbit. And that's what we were noticing. And so when we actually looked at this object, it kind of looked really strange. So that's one of them that was recently.
That was probably the most important one recently, because we've had big I don't know how to put it,
debates,
UFO, the guys that are just in it for posting UFO stuff,
right?
And we've had them take clips from us and post them all over the internet. And
you actually had one of your clips actually went viral, did it not?
Well, yeah, and the thing, and I got kind of upset at that, because I was looking, I was like, okay, I said in the video it was a satellite. We confirmed it was a satellite. We had the information, we knew what satellite it was, but they took that little clip of it, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, is this an alien mothership crossing the moon's surface, and it was everywhere.
It's a satellite that everyone said was a satellite anyway.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that was my first experience with just,
So you've poked my curiosity here just a little bit. How do you handle something like that? Do you address it, or do you
can't really?
No,
you can't, because once it goes to one person and they have a big enough a following, you have 30 people below them that want to do the same thing, and they'll take that clip from him, and then they'll take the clip from them, and then next thing you know, it's in the UK mirror. Like, UK loves this kind of stuff for some reason. The tabloids
everywhere.
In the UK, 16 papers over in the UK have the same title and headline, and it's from the same site that actually took the clip.
Does it trail back to you guys at P&K? Do you get some good publicity out of it?
Somewhat. So we get, and we were talking about this the one night on the stream, Mark, and you get an initial bump, you'll get like massive amount of subs right off the bat. And then once they find out,
subs or subscriptions.
well, yeah,
Thank you for that.
once
Well,
I love
the
the
audience,
guys there
the
in the
audience
lingo.
may not know that.
No, and it's obvious that Commander Cobra probably didn't know it either because you can see underneath my glasses.
which is great because I mean everybody on YouTube.
I
has
thought you were talking about
subscription,
my
you know?
substitute school teaching.
And I could have been confused as submarines. Because,
there you go.
Right.
because
Or
of my
sandwiches.
Work, because of the work I do for the Navy. Or sandwiches. That's right.
So they come for the UFO, like, oh, this is great. This is a channel, showing UFOs all the time. And once they come and realize we don't get them all the time, and secondly that we're basing everything we do in science, that takes away the hardcore UFO people. And yet, because we do the channel how we do it, and because Paul is absolutely amazing at that
Really
scope and
is.
getting better every single night,
Really is.
and we almost convert some people when they come to the channel. They come there because they're a heavy, hardcore UFO, and then we start giving them little bits of what it could be, and then you get maybe 25% of them that actually stay and become fans of the channel and become interactive with us and everything, and they end up hanging around, and it turns out pretty good. But yeah, you get that initial bump, but not everybody stays around.
Yeah. And I've been at conferences. I did like Devil's Tower UFO Rendezvous last year. First time the conference was ever done.
Beautiful part of the country, by the way.
Yes, the Devil's Tower is beautiful. It's northeastern Wyoming. I'm invited to come back this year. I'm going to be speaking again. All right. And Robert Olson and Lori Tucker do a phenomenal job putting that conference together, even though it's only their second one. The first one went off as if they had done it all their lives. It's really well done. Well, anyway, when I was out there, sitting in the front row of my talk, there was a few people, and it turns out that these people that were in the front row had these weird smiles on their faces. And when I inquired about why, I found out that they were members of Sky Tour live stream that I do on YouTube, and they were actually, subscribers of mine. And you see, no matter where you go, you stand a chance that you're going to meet someone that knows you because of those things.
I believe you had an encounter like that last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in Leominster, Mass.
Oh yes, that's right. I was doing a talk there, and I had this guy showed up who I didn't even recognize.
But seemed to know you.
He seemed to know me, and I had no idea who it was. And then he kind of had this funny smile on his face, and I didn't know what that was. So when I inquired further, and I was trying to be Mr. Professional about it, it turned out it was none other than someone named, I think it was, I think you remember his name, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I believe that he put it, it's like he pointed at your chest and then did the finger to your face thing by the table there.
And
then we took pictures for Bill Skywatcher.
That's correct.
And teased Bill Skywatcher that said that you had met Commander Cobra.
And that's exactly who it was. It was Commander Cobra, the man sitting right to my left. Okay. And
you also met Mrs. Cobra.
And I met Mrs. Cobra as well. And Mrs. Cobra is probably the stabilizing force.
I would agree with
Commander Cobra. I have to say that.
Keeps you grounded.
You know what? Wonderful people. Wonderful people. You never forget wonderful, good people.
You're forgetting, Mark.
And Commander Cobra.
It's been about a year since you decided to actually start streaming on YouTube yourself.
That's right. That's right. And I noticed that recently the number of subscribers I'm getting is starting to increase.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it one night and it was 600 and something, and the next night it was 700 and something. It's like, wow, that was fast, a lot. And I think part of it is when you go on someone else's stream or on a radio show, if you go on Commander Cobra's show and you go on Paul and Keith's show stream, then they say, yeah, you got to subscribe, you got to go see Sky Tour live stream, whatever. And this isn't a self, admiration, thing here, but basically it's just saying that when you go on these shows, these streams, you unwittingly are letting people know a little bit about who you are.
Yep.
And if they are hungry for that kind of knowledge, then they seek you out. They make the effort to find you. And I think that's what happens with all of our streams and all of our radio shows. People want to know.
Yep.
My show on Sky on KGRA radio at kgraradio.com.
KGRA radio.
That's right. And he promised to tell you about that later, but he'll probably tell you about it sooner than later, so he doesn't have to kick me. Sky Tour Radio actually was something that Bill New York Skywatcher and Race Hobbs, the owner of the owner of KGRA, okay, and good friend, they decided mutually that I should probably do a show, and I was like, wow, really?
I'm so excited, really? Yeah, you hear that, folks?
And
you get to see the facial expression. Isn't that great?
Yeah,
just the kind of thing you want. Right?
It was called
intimidation,
uncertainty, and intimidation. Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was the right thing.
This is a man who can captivate an audience of people walking around with a roll of toilet paper and have the chart out the whole history of the Earth.
Yeah.
Yet he's intimidated about going on to a radio station with the greatest audience on the planet.
It is the greatest audience on the planet,
and they embraced you wonderfully. As we told you they would.
Very humbled by my reception by the audience. I was very humbled by that. I didn't expect it, because this is a paranormal and a UFO audience, and then they were going to be hit with science full on in the face. But it's science from a perspective of, I believe that alien life can be out there. In fact, every single scientist now agrees that there is life elsewhere. I can probably say that with a near certainty, okay? The question of whether they're here or not is the big one.
Right.
Right? And we know, and I won't go too far down this path, because this is your show, not mine.
But
okay?
You're fine.
You sure?
I'll hit you if I have to.
Thank you very much. But don't hit me hard again, because that really left a mark last time. All right. But and please, not the face again. But what happened was, if we look at where we are and the universe and the whole arrangement that humans have in this galaxy, we're kind of newcomers here. We're only here for about 5,000. We've been here as history-keeping beings for about 5,000 years,
right,
from about ancient Sumeria and forward. But anyway, in that amount of time, we've learned an awful lot about science. We've learned a lot about the universe and what makes it tick. We're wrong about some of it. We're right about some of it. Now, again, I'm an astronomer. That's what I went to school for, and my specialty within astronomy has become exoplanets, planets around other stars. There's so many of them now, and so many other planets that we think might be Earth-like, that now the question of whether you can ply that gulf between the stars kind of becomes a moot one, because we already see, in this 5,000 years of record keeping that we've had as a species, we already can see ways to circumvent that light speed barrier the universe has imposed upon us. So I think that it's just a matter of time, and it's so exciting. I mean, it's so incredibly exciting. I get jittery sometimes when I think about it, and it's not just from the caffeine.
So, Keith,
yes,
what's kind of the next thing for you in your programming and your channel and what you're going to do? It's obvious that it's not, success isn't the word I'm looking for, because that has kind of a commercial aspect to it, and I know that's not your goal. But what are you guys planning on doing next?
We expanding into education. I mean, that's the biggest thing. The biggest thing that we feel we can help with is educating the younger generation to come up and get them interested in astronomy and whatnot. So we're branching off into more educational videos, kind of like behind the scenes how-tos, especially when it comes to astronomy, but not just astronomy, other topics as well.
Well, you've picked an object that almost every being, human on the face of the earth, knows about. At some point, almost everyone sees the moon.
I think you probably can actually say that everyone has seen the moon.
Well,
I bet you.
Or at least has an understanding of the moon. And then through the optical, through the vision. But then I believe that we react with the moon with our bodies as well, because of the gravitational pull and all the other things that go on with it. So I think that you guys have a very interesting intersection almost of every culture. Some have more mystical qualities that they assign to the moon than others. So you have this focal point. But now you have all the kinds of engineering, the kinds of basic science that goes through it. There's the technology interfaces that go on there, and you've captured the new media, which is the internet.
Yeah.
So you've made this accessible to anybody.
And that was the point. Once again, I mean, two pairs of eyes, they're not going to see anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you add 1,000 people with 2 eyes apiece, you're going to be able to catch a lot more. And don't get me wrong, I mean, yeah, we're a science channel, but we would love for a flying saucer to come into frame, zip a 90-degree turn, and shoot back out and just blow our mind. We would love it. Because then I could send it to him. We can get it reviewed by him. If he okays it, we send it to the colleges, get them to look at it, review it, and with all the information that we have, and hopefully lock down a positive identification on something that we don't know. You know what I mean? And that's the whole goal of everything.
So you're expanding the your training and the educational aspect of it.
Right. You
have grown a lot of membership.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys need besides more people to be involved with it?
We try not to need a lot. I mean, Paul came into this with his own arsenal. I mean, as I said, he's loaded, you know, and he puts out a lot of money for all that stuff, including the cameras and whatnot. We do just our basic, you know, upkeeps and whatnot. We do have like shirts and stuff that we, you know, but once again, we don't pawn that stuff on people. Like you don't have to do it. It's just if you want to contribute, we'd rather you get something in return than say a Patreon or something like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just the future's kind of clouded. Like I would love to continue this growth and just get more and more and more and more and more, because what has helped us is our subscribers branching off to Mark. You know what I mean? Because that's where it's like if they ask us an in-depth question that we know we can answer satisfactory.
You have the ringer.
We can say
you got the ringer of Saturn. Get it?
We can send him to Mark or have Mark on, and
funny.
he would answer. He would be able to answer it, like, because this guy's brain is a computer. You know, I don't know how he does it. I don't know where he keeps it. I'm not even going to bother asking.
Negative. I do not believe I am a computer. Do not imply these things.
So between, you know, and us three, we got people because
I would have gone for the Hal voice. That's what I would have gone for.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
I'm sorry, Keith.
But yeah, but our crossover has become so big because of the people, everybody subscribing to all three of us, including Bill Skywatcher over here, that we actually, people would almost get upset with us when we were streaming at the same time.
Right.
That, you know, so what we decided to do is actually team up, and with the help of Bill over here, we actually put together a site called astroimaginglive.com, where if we're on, you can watch all three at once.
Wow.
And what
on
we
the same screen.
Yeah, we kind of do our own thing. Like Paul does the planetary and the moon. You know, we kind of stick with what we're good at. Bill does the meteor showers, you know, with a beautiful camera that he has.
Wide field,
yep. And then, of course, Mark does the in-depth galaxies, stars, clusters,
deep
you know,
sky,
all that, and just gives you a complete smack in the face of education.
Now, how interactive are you with your audience when they're watching?
We try to do one live talking show per moon cycle, and our moon cycle is basically a couple days after the new moon we start, which would be right about now, except the weather has just been awful, to a couple days after full. Because once then it's too up to, once again, day jobs, it stops you, so you have to go to bed at some time, so it starts coming up a little late for us to be streaming. So during that cycle, we try to do one or two live shows where I'll have Mark on, or we have certain people scheduled, like Amy Title from Vintage Space. We have Fraser Kane from I think it's Astronomy Magazine.
I don't remember.
Astronomy Today, maybe. I don't remember what it was, but he's a really good astronomer as well. So we'll have people like that come in. We've also done, which we're going to do this week. There's a guy named David Schmidt over in, help me out, Mark.
Bangkok.
In Bangkok. That he actually watches us during the day when he's in class. He's a teacher.
Well, his yes, that's right.
You know?
His daytime classes show up when we're actually streaming.
Right.
So it's a perfect thing. So we're going to actually teach a class.
So we're going to live stream the moon specifically for his class live, so they can, and his class is going to actually be able to ask Mark questions live while they're viewing the live moon from the East Coast of the United States.
Right.
You know, stuff like that is awesome.
And my co-host on SkyTour Livestream is Amanda Curran, and Amanda is going to be in.
That is sweet, Amanda Curran.
That is right, and I believe she's going to be a guest on your show.
She is going to be a guest on my show. Most honored guest.
Yes, in fact, that's true. And Amanda is just exceptional at monitoring what's coming through to make sure that we're on top of all the questions coming in, and she will make sure we get them one way or another, and she's very good at that.
All kidding aside, I say she's one of the purest spirits I've met doing this. She is one of the funniest and purest spirits going on. She has a real talent.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. KGRA should latch on to her and not let go, but don't
seeing
let
her
anybody know we
expanse as
said
well.
that.
And I don't mean to get off topic, but seeing Amanda's expanse in the last year alone with working with Mark has been astounding. It's almost to the point now where if I can't get a hold of him to answer some kind of question, I almost can go to Amanda and ask her, because she's learned so much, and she's kind of timid with it and doesn't really come out with it all that much.
Yeah, she doesn't like to say that she knows anything,
but
and then she turns around and answers your question.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and by the way, adds a few details she didn't realize she actually did know.
She'll never admit it,
Yeah,
she's
she's
you
very
can
humble.
see it.
That's right, very humble.
Now,
you need that.
Any special events coming up moon-wise?
We got
super moons, blood moon, any of those events that you guys are trying to intersect?
A partial lunar eclipse, I think, on the 25th of May. We should be able to get that. We do start streaming back again this week once the weather clears. It's been absolutely horrible on the East Coast, as you know. And poor Paul down there's probably drowning down there in Florida somewhere, because he streams from Miami, and that's another thing that surprises people is, you know, he's at sea level. It's Miami, Florida, with a telescope. What? You know, and yet, once again, we learned from Mark on the streams that sometimes with planets or with the moon, it can be better to be by water.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's an observatory, a solar observatory, Big Bear, that's in the middle of a lake, and it's just exquisite. You know, the seeing and so forth is actually assisted by the water, not hurt by the water.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of factors there to go into that. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy.
So you had the solar eclipse. Anything else?
Nothing off the top of my head anyway.
Anything that you can think of, sir? Since you're the resident science officer here.
But science officer, yes, yes, Captain. I believe we should.
That's Commander, sir.
I'm sorry, Commander, sir. Yes.
I limit myself to cycles, so I know what's coming in this cycle, and then
Right.
I'll know what's coming in the next one.
Well, I mean, one of the problems is that, you know, when we have Bill New York Skywatcher sitting over there smiling, saying, "Please don't talk about me," and I'm going to anyway. Too bad, pal. You know, he is very good at watching the meteor showers. When there's meteor showers, he'll put out his camera and we'll get this nice wide-angle view of the sky, and we'll actually get to see meteors. And you'll know that Bill's seen one because he says, "Ooh, ooh, a shooter, a shooter, a shooter." You know, he calls them shooters. You know, which is really kind of fun. There will be the occasional meteor shower. We have, of course, always have meteor showers coming up. As far as the moon cycles, I like personally to look for those events such as the transits, the things where something that we don't expect to cross the moon's face does cross the moon's face. You know, we could actually predict those. We know where all the satellites are that are of, you know, the visible satellites. We know where they are, and we can actually probably predict when they're going to cross and if they're going to cross by the moon. And
now, am I mistaken? We had an asteroid that passed between.
Yes, actually, we do. It doesn't necessarily pass between the Earth and the Moon directly, but it might pass within the Moon's orbit. That is to say, somewhere in the whole big circle around the Earth that the Moon travels around, the asteroid might have gone through there.
Got it.
Yeah. Now, I think it's really interesting too, because when we talk about asteroids, what are those asteroids? Well, those are asteroids that are kind of they come into the inner solar system, and then they sometimes go back out and leave the solar system behind, or sometimes are on a larger orbit that takes them farther out. And right now, we don't have any known threats that we're facing here on planet Earth from an asteroid. But we also find that the oddball comes through, like a few months ago, actually last year, I think, and it's named for the Hawaiian, I think it's messenger, Oumuamua. And that's Oumuamua is Oumua. Oumuamua is 10 times longer than it is wide, and that came through the solar system at a blistering speed, something like 165,000 kilometers per second or something, per hour or something. Don't remember. And as it came through, it slowed down as it went around the sun and left it around 85,000. But that was definitely an interstellar asteroid, something that came from another solar system, got ejected from that solar system, and then entered ours after an extremely long journey in between the stars. That's amazing. And we looked at the surface of it. The surface of it was sort of reddish, which is exactly what we'd expect for something that's being pelted with cosmic rays and other high-energy radiation in that interstellar journey. Just an amazing object. But it points out that we don't know what to expect and when to expect it. See what I mean? And
Sure.
that's always a risk, you know. And we've talked on, I think on Keith's stream on P&K, we've actually talked about the fact, and on SkyTour Radio, we've talked about the fact that the Earth is not the most habitable planet, most likely. It's very likely that we are not, in the best planet suitable for human life. And, such a planet would be called a super habitable planet. And we don't have super habitability here. We can get skin cancer from ultraviolet radiation. We have to worry about earthquakes, tornadoes, volcanoes, as Kilauea is now erupting. Kilauea the other day was at level 5 alert, the highest you can have, saying that an eruption is imminent or, underway. That's pretty dangerous. And last time it erupted violently, not this cycle, but in I think the mid-80s, it actually erupted, and it destroyed 125 homes. That's 125 lives affected. I'm sure every one of those people think that the Hawaiian Islands are not really suitable for human life. You know what I mean?
Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Skywatcher is signaling with a question
Hands
from the
a-waving.
field.
Yes. Keith, I want to know, because you've captured a lot of anomalies at times on your stream.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think? Do you think that there is a secret space program going on? And how would you think that we can cover the dark side of the moon? A lot of people have that curiosity.
Well, I got to correct this because Commander Cobra can't let dark side of the
glad
moon
you're
go.
letting. I'm glad
it's
you
the
hit
far
it.
side of the moon.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
So what are
There's
your all
no
your opinions?
dark side.
Okay.
Is there? I'm pretty sure there's secret satellites. As for the whole space-based military, I'm not quite on board with that yet. I have to see a lot more proof for that to validate. As for viewing the far side of the moon, I think it would be great to have
how smooth he worked that in there.
That's pretty good.
Far side.
Yes.
But to view the backside, I'd like to see at one point us getting a couple stationary relay optical satellites out there that are far enough out that can constantly, but whether it would happen, I mean, the only reason we're streaming the moon is because, our space agency wasn't doing it.
Right.
They were live streaming everything else, but for some reason, even if you go to these big telescopes, you're not pointing it there.
No,
because
no.
they're not calibrated for obviously, but
Well, there's a lot of other things too. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly, we do know the far side of the moon very well, and you can see it yourself right now, this very instant. All you have to do is go to the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter website and look up something called the Quick Map, all one word, Quick Map. And the Quick Map browser has a selection where you can pick the far side or the near side, and you can pick whether you want to see all the geology on the moon. You can pick the landing sites for the Apollos.
I thought he was talking about like a live view. If we ever wanted to get a live view of the far side.
Well, no, but this is just a photographic atlas, down to literally 0.5 meter per camera pixel. That's actually very close. It's mind blowing, and it's on the far side as well. And I think that's very interesting that we can do that now. I always wanted to have that kind of availability, and now we do have it. So it's actually something that's a very good, very strong possibility for us to actually find something that way. And I don't discount that if an alien species was here, they might go to the moon, right? Don't you believe so, Commander? They could go to the moon and actually observe us from the limb of the moon and see us. You would think that maybe that would be a logical thing to do, no?
Well, I guess I'm going to circle back. I'll try to answer that better in a second as I formulate. The secret space program part, I break that question down a little bit because Bill and I, we don't spar on this one, but we debate this one a lot. So there are the following categories in my mind on it. What you talked about, Keith, the satellites and the classified, the various governments that have space, and we know that those are going on. There's all kinds of activity going on there. So, and that's one part of it. The other part is, I believe we have a very healthy manned program going on. I think it's a military program. I think it's what is probably keeping things in check, and that's just based on how I view what I see that's going on with the military.
Like in orbit, or
in orbit, or capable to go to orbit, capable to do things, because it, for me, makes me understand why when you look on paper, where this country may appear to be in decline in certain types of numbers or weapon systems and things that are going on, we have something that keeps things in check. And what is that? And I think we probably are still very much leaders in that particular part of space. And the tricky thing, just like not fessing up to UFOs and not fessing up to what the real historical record is because you lie, what you have done now is you have not told the public about the program, so you're not going to pass the information out.
The government hasn't done itself any favors.
No,
with its track record either.
The last part where I throw doubt on, but I keep hearing more things about this that trail together that give me an impression that there may be more to it. Is that we actually have actual engagement with other civilizations. I have nothing to base it on except that I meet very reasonable people. People that explain things they've seen, people that explain what they've heard or experienced. That gives me some pause. I'm not in that camp yet, but I do think that there is at least something that's worth being respectful to that part of the talk.
I think it's in the realm of definite possibilities. You know what I mean?
I just look at the advances and I look where we're at. You talked about a scale of on the time, and when you have your linear map all drawn out, we get down to the inches based on all the other feet that you have talked about.
Talking about the toilet paper again.
Yes, the toilet
It always
paper.
goes back to the bathroom, doesn't it?
Well, I try not to, but you are the scientist at the table.
I am the guy bringing you the toilet paper, so I guess it's only natural.
I can only think of that line from Ghostbusters, back off, man, I'm a scientist. I kind of getting that feeling, okay?
He's kind of right, Mark, because we had talked about this before, and we were talking about post-1947.
Right.
The infamous Roswell. But if you would go back before 1947 and look at mankind's accomplishments over the last 2,000 years, you got fire, of course, gunpowder, ships, that can sail and everything. But you go from 1947 to 2018.
Right.
That amount of technology that has accrued in just that short amount of time overshadows any time before.
That's right.
Just the amount of innovation, whether it be space travel, whether it be LEDs or lasers or we have compacted so much in so little time.
And another aspect that we don't give good credence to, or we don't seem to pay attention to, one of the other either stabilizing or destabilizing forces that is going on with us is the thing that is the vehicle of our programs, and it's now we have a communication base right now. We can take our phones and we can look up almost every fact ever recorded in the 5,000 years while we're sitting in the Cup and Saucer Diner in Pine Bush, New York.
Pine Bush, New York, yeah.
Now, unfortunately, as you've heard me pontificate many times on my show, we're not looking up important good facts. We're we're spending time on other kinds of activities, and shame on us for that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me that the catalyst that has caused, we are seeing a compression from the time that the printing press came out to where we are now. And you have now a group of people, we're poised for whatever that next big leap is going to be.
That's right.
You talk about it all the time, how when they first theorized how much energy it would take to do the kind of interstellar travel, and now when you go back, you have the ability to redo the calculations, which is where I kind of fall in, because I was a math major, although my grades probably didn't indicate that very well, and I'm glad my parents hung in there while I struggled through it. We're now at a point where we can use our unbelievable level of computer and compress. You can do those things much quicker time than we've ever done it before.
Yeah.
That's very true. That's very true.
So that's what tells me that I think that we're at a precipice in a lot of areas, that you can't suppress information the way it did. NASA's not looking at the moon.
Yeah.
The most critical, the most culturally significant object in the sky next to the sun is the moon.
And
it's in our mythology.
It
it's in,
disappears.
and it goes away and it comes back and it does things. It has an impact on what we do, and we're not looking at it all the time. And what's P&K doing? P&K takes the available technology, rolls it into an engagement, and you have people now that are drawn to it, just like they have been for the 5,000 years of recorded history. We talk about the moon, and now we have people that are engaging in trying, and now we're talking about science on the end of it.
And some people can't believe
My
it
hat's
when they
off
first
to you,
see
but
it.
of course I can't take my hat off because we're
Yes,
videoing this, and it would give away. Oh, I can do this. As there you go.
Yeah, that's right.
Tip of the hat.
And once again, we wouldn't do what we're doing without Paul in Florida. He was supposed to be here this year, but he couldn't make it. He was up here in Pine Bush last year. We're hoping he will come again next year. But he continues to educate himself and get better and better and better. I mean, everything from getting custom built cameras, because we're the only place I think that, as far as I know, do something that we call direct optics, which means no lenses, no filters. We do everything in the post feed, whether it's coming from him or me. So with him being able to do that,
explain what that means, because there's people that aren't going to follow what that means.
I do need to remind you, we're in our closing minutes. So
I'll just tell you real quick. It's basically it's camera to mirror.
Okay.
It's nothing in between. Some people use Barlow lenses, some people, but he has these custom-made cameras from a guy in Canada that actually makes it so it's camera to mirror. It's the only difference. Where you would have ports on other telescopes that you would put your camera in or whatnot. But yeah, once again, if it wasn't for Paul, this channel would not exist.
Well,
at all.
I'm going to do something backwards that I normally do in the beginning. I always try to dedicate a show, and I think Paul's the person we're going to put the dedication to, because he sounds like I can't wait to meet him in person. But he is someone who's taking I would imagine, hard-fought riches and enriching every one of us around us with the kind of stuff that he's doing. And I love that entrepreneurial kind of spirit that says, we can do this, and if you can think it, we'll create it. And I'm sitting next to a guy who does that all the time as well. So, just like if we were on the air on a Sunday night, please listen to Sky Tour Live Radio on KGRA.
Yeah, Sky Tour Radio on KGRAradio.com at 9 p.m. Eastern, following the wonderful Commander Cobra show, which starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time on KGRAradio.com.
So, Bye.